Paycheck Protection Program. Why some lawmakers call on Planned Parenthood to return government money. Earth Day. President Joe Biden calls on world leaders to address climate change. What Pope Francis is saying. Kidnapped Catholics. Learn about the push to free a group of priests and nuns who were taken captive. And Life of Christ. How the Chosen TV show is appealing to a widespread audience. On EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. U.S. Senator Rand Paul and a group of Republican senators are demanding that Attorney General Merrick Garland and officials from the Small Business Administration open investigations against Planned Parenthood affiliates for the millions of dollars they received in the Paycheck Protection Program. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports.
More than $80 million. That's the amount Planned Parenthood received in the first PPP loan process. And now Senator Rand Paul, the top Republican in the Senate Small Business Committee, tells me that's not all.
We discovered that not only did they not give back the first loan, several of them are still getting the second loan, despite a ruling by the Trump administration that it was illegal.
The Kentucky senator says the CARES Act passed last year clearly states PPP eligibility is limited to entities with 500 or fewer employees. Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider, has around 16,000 employees. Senator Paul and others wrote to the Department of Justice, the Inspector General, and Small Business Administration demanding an investigation. Plus, they want Planned Parenthood to give the taxpayer money back.
We're not expecting the Biden administration to do much about it because basically I think they're going to sweep this under the rug. But my job is to expose this because it's illegal, immoral, and something we should try to stop.
Nobody's beneath the law, but nobody's above the law. And I think we ought to take a look at what Planned Parenthood knew and didn't know, and whether they were entitled to money. It's a very sophisticated organization.
Jacqueline Ayers, Government Relations and Public Policy for Planned Parenthood Federation of America, slammed Republicans' claims as, quote, baseless political attacks. In a statement, she says, quote, like many other local nonprofits and healthcare providers, the independent Planned Parenthood 501c3 organizations who were awarded PPP loans met the eligibility requirements established by both Congress and the Small Business Administration. As a doctor who has delivered a baby, Senator Paul tells me we as a country need to protect the lives of the unborn. He says it's not just a moral issue, but these babies have rights as human beings. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the Senate has passed a bill to combat hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
We are saying very simply to America, to New York, to the world, stop Asian hate.
The measure passed by a vote of 94-1. Similar legislation is expected soon in the U.S. House. The names of 6 women killed last month in Georgia are listed in that bill. For the second time in 2 years, a statehood vote for the District of Columbia clears the U.S. House.
The yeas are 216. The nays are 208. The bill is passed.
House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer of Maryland expressed the Democrat view that D.C. residents are disenfranchised voters. Republican James Comer of Kentucky called Leader Hoyer hypocritical as one who had opposed a similar D.C. statehood bill back in 1993. The battle now moves to the Senate. Every nation has a responsibility and every nation is at risk. That is what President Joe Biden said today as he launched a global climate summit, and Pope Francis even took part. We spoke with one expert on how Catholics can think critically about it. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, good evening. President Joe Biden also said today that by 2030, just 9 years from now, he wants to cut greenhouse gas emissions here in the U.S. by half. He says the cost of inaction keeps mounting, but for some, it's not that cut and dry.
You know, this moment demands urgency.
President Joe Biden says the nations of the world can't go it alone battling climate change and need to step up. He wants to build and deploy clean technology and promises jobs.
Within our climate response, lies an extraordinary engine of job creation and economic opportunity ready to be fired up. That's why I've proposed a huge investment in American infrastructure and American innovation.
Saludo a ustedes que están reunidos.
Pope Francis welcomed the meeting, calling it a wonderful idea and wishing them great success, saying nature is a gift we have received that must be cared for into the future.
We need to ensure that the environment is cleaner, more pure. It needs to be preserved. We must care for nature so that nature may care for us.
But not everyone agrees on all the solutions being offered.
In my view, the Paris Accords would make very little difference and would cost trillions of dollars.
And when the Pope weighs in, it can cause some confusion among the faithful.
As the Pope, we want to take him seriously on any of those views, but at the same time, he tells us that he's not trying to prescribe policy views or scientific questions or settle scientific questions for Catholics. So obviously, faithful Catholics can have different opinions about the details of climate change without disagreeing with the Pope on any fundamental issue.
Also attending the summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin, who called on countries to join together in the climate change battle. And China, the planet's biggest emissions emitter, called on developed countries to act.
Developed countries need to increase climate ambition and action, and make concrete efforts to help developing countries accelerate the transition to green and low-carbon development.
And on this World Earth Day, the Pope also said, quote, both global catastrophes, COVID and the climate, show that we don't have time to waste. And tomorrow is day 2 of the Climate Summit. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Pope Francis urges all Lebanese political leaders to commit themselves to benefit the nation and its people. The Holy Father met the Prime Minister-designate of Lebanon, Saeed Hariri, today and expressed his desire to visit the country as soon as possible. The country has the largest percentage of Christians in the Middle East, making up a third of its population. Pope Francis also met with the head of the Legionnaires of Christ, a religious congregation of over 1,000 priests in 21 countries, founded 80 years ago in Mexico. Father John Connor, the General Director of the Legion, met one-on-one with the Holy Father exactly 1 month after the Legion presented its sexual abuse report. The congregation is in the process of an ongoing reform. Father John Connor, General Director of the Legionnaires of Christ, joins us now from Rome. Father, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us about your meeting with Pope Francis. What was his biggest message to you and the Legionnaires?
Well, Tracy, I've been waiting for a year. At least I've been hoping to have a meeting with the Holy Father. So overall, just to thank him for accompanying us over all these years, he and the whole church. It's really been an incredible period for us, obviously, challenging, and the church has been with us every step of the way. So the meeting was really very fatherly. He was very close, very fatherly, wanted to know how we were doing, how the renewal is going, certainly, but how our men are doing. So that was very encouraging for me. And he wanted to know how I was doing, right? One important message for us, and I asked him, Holy Father, what would you like to see? And he said, let's work together. Let's be in communion, the whole church. It's so important that we foster communion together in our work of evangelization now. So that was beautiful, because it was my desire too. It was one of my reasons for having the meeting, Tracy, is that we want to be in communion with the Vicar of Christ and be in mission with him, this beautiful mission we have of evangelization. So
that's incredible. And I understand part of that meeting with the Holy Father was about the abuse report. Can you give us an update on that process and where it stands now?
Sure, Tracy. Well, the report we recently published, and also publishing the cases of those who have suffered sexual abuse as a minor by members of our congregation, it was one more step forward, hopefully, in really trying to foster truth and healing for those individuals and making sure we want them to feel confident that not only are we affirming what has happened, but we want to care for them in their process. I updated the Holy Father on the report and just assured him of our conviction to continue forward, constant improvement in this area, which he has been insisting really and encouraging the whole church to address this with humility and authenticity, right?
And what's next for the Legion? Are you optimistic about what the future holds?
Tracy, I see this future, I think we see the future with a lot of opportunity and hope. You know, this Easter season, I was just reflecting on last Sunday's readings with Peter and Acts of Apostles. You know, the whole theme, Tracy, of the new man in Christ is central to Easter. And it's also central to our spirituality in the Legion and Regnum Christi. And what the new man has done, he's encountered Jesus Christ, he's received forgiveness and mercy, and he becomes a new man in Jesus Christ and wants to share that encounter with Christ and give hope to others. And I think that's what we hope for. That's the opportunity to be the new man in Christ, to share the story of renewal, that renewal is possible for an institution, not just for a man and in his own sinfulness, right, and encountering Christ, but an institution as well, to be a new institution in Jesus Christ and to serve with humility and authenticity the church in her mission of evangelization. So that's the opportunity we see, Tracy, and God willing, we'll be able to offer that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that message with us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today. Father John Connor, General Director of the Legionnaires of Christ. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tracy.
Our Roman Catholic institutions are closed for 3 days in Haiti to demand the release of 8 kidnapped victims.
Même avant le kidnapping, les missionnaires ne jouissaient pas d'une bonne santé.
The Port-au-Prince Archdiocese is worried about the precarious medical conditions of the 5 priests, 2 nuns, and 1 layperson. They were kidnapped on April 11th. The church questions the government's control over increased violence. Well, international agencies warn about Myanmar's humanitarian crisis. The UN predicts some 3.4 million people will suffer from hunger in 6 months in that country, also known as Burma. An estimated 250,000 people have been displaced after February's military coup. Coming up, coronavirus crisis. India struggles with a rising caseload. And religious restrictions. Catholics in Ireland push back against a ban on gathering during the pandemic. India has suffered more than 300,000 new coronavirus infections in the past 24 hours. More than 2,000 have died. Health experts warn of a dire situation.
We are still seeing an upsurge, and we cannot comment on when we will see a downturn.
Hospitals are overwhelmed, turning away patients and scrambling to get enough medical oxygen. There are grim reports about accumulating human remains. Well, Japan is preparing a 3rd coronavirus state of emergency for metropolitan Tokyo. It would allow businesses shut down, but would not mandate mask wearing nor affect the upcoming Olympics. Japan's prime minister says an announcement will be made by week's end. Well, the head of the Catholic Church in Ireland met with government officials earlier this week regarding new restrictions that ban the public celebration of religious services. The BBC reports Archbishop Eamon Martin said the measure to ban public masses was, quote, draconian. He added it was both confusing and unnecessary. The government had defended the ban, saying all indoor gatherings have been canceled because of the pandemic. Joining us now is Archbishop Eamon Martin from the Archdiocese of Armagh and the Primate of all Ireland. Your Excellency, welcome back. Thank you so much for your time today. So wondering, how did the meeting go, and are there any updates to whether public mass will resume?
Well, Tracy, you'll be among the first to know that we've received some good news from the Taoiseach, that's the Irish Prime Minister, to say that they are hoping to reopen public worship in Ireland at the very beginning of May, as soon as the highest level of restrictions in the country is being lifted. This comes as a great news for us because we were deeply concerned about the direction that things were going in the Republic of Ireland. I think it's important to let you know, and all of your viewers and listeners to know, that the Irish Bishops' Conference covers two distinct jurisdictions, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And in Northern Ireland, thank God, the churches have been open for public worship since just before Palm Sunday. But in the Republic of Ireland, things have remained effectively closed down, except for only 10 people allowed to attend a funeral or a wedding. And it's deeply concerning for our people who are missing so much access to the sacraments. It's also practically very difficult because my diocese, the Archdiocese of Armagh, straddles the border. So half of my diocese is back at public worship and the other half is not. And there's a very peculiar situation that one of my parishes, the border goes through the parish. So two churches in the parish are now open and one church is not. So as you can imagine, it's really difficult, and it's been a struggle for all of us.
Oh, absolutely. How frustrating, too. I understand the officials say they're worried about the spread of a new variant of coronavirus. What do you know about that, and what do you say to that?
Well, you know, this is something that we've all been living with over the last year, more than a year now, one scare after another. But on the positive note, I think there is a sense that the number of cases is declining. The number of hospital admissions, ICU admissions, has been declining now for some time. And also the vaccination program is proceeding. In Northern Ireland, it's quite extensive. In the south, it has been a bit slower. So I think we get a sense that we're getting on top of the worst of the virus, and also a sense that people have been behaving very responsibly, I have to say, and very patiently. You know, there's been a lot of self-denial, a lot of sacrifice involved since the beginning of this pandemic. And I think that the churches, the Catholic Church and indeed the other Christian churches, have been working really hard to get across the public message of protection of health, protection of life, working to support the common good. But at the same time, we have been earnestly asking for a return to the sacraments, because we believe that not just someone's physical well-being, but also their emotional, their mental, and of course their spiritual well-being is vitally important.
Yes, it is. And Your Excellency, I'm wondering, do you have maybe any words of encouragement for those who may have to watch Mass over the internet because of restrictions?
Well, one of the beautiful things has been the ability to invite people to make an act of spiritual communion. And one of the things I've noticed is people coming to Mass. I said Mass, public Mass this morning at 8 o'clock here in Armagh, because we're in Northern Ireland and we're open for public worship. But one of my congregation members, she said to me after Mass, she said, I wasn't able to come last week. I was a bit worried. So I followed the Mass on the webcam. So I get a sense that she's still with us. She's part of our congregation. And I would say to people who are not able to attend public worship or to attend Mass and the sacraments, please do keep linking in online. I know it's not the same, but you are part of our congregation. It has also, Tracy, made me very aware of parts of the world which, either because of a lack of vocations or indeed because of persecution of the faith, where people are not able to have daily public Mass. And I think we've all become a little bit more empathetic to those brothers and sisters of ours in parts of the world who do not have access so readily to Mass and the sacraments.
And I wish we had so much more time to talk, but unfortunately we don't. It was wonderful speaking with you, Archbishop Eamon Martin from the Archdiocese of Armagh and the Primate of all Ireland. Thank you so much.
God bless you all.
Up next. religious TV program, how The Chosen captures the life of Christ. Tonight on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, an abortion survivor shares her story of healing and forgiveness as she takes on the mission she says that has come from God.
She said, "Claire, there's something I need to tell you." She said, "Your life is a miracle because I had an abortion when I was pregnant with you at 13 years old. And a few weeks went by after the abortion procedure. I was told that my life would go back to normal, but it didn't."
Claire Caldwell is the author of a book about her life as an abortion survivor. It is set to be released next week, and you can hear more about her journey tonight on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly at 10 p.m. Eastern. A TV show helps to broadcast the life of Christ to 1 billion people. The second season of The Chosen is now being released, and the actor portraying Jesus is a devout Catholic. EWTN News Nightly correspondent Mark Iron tells us why The Chosen looks a little different.
Rise.
Christ has been depicted in many big-budget films, but this production is fueled by donations.
Put that down for a catch.
The Chosen, a series on the life of Jesus and his followers, has been described as the highest crowd-funded media project in history. Now in Season 2, the show is reaching a growing global audience.
We've told people we need $100 million to do the next 5 seasons to reach 1 billion people.
Creator and director Dallas Jenkins says the show came out of his biggest career failure. In 2017, he released a major Hollywood motion picture, but when it bombed at the box office, he turned to faith.
A moment with God that ultimately changed my life, which is to, get that point of surrender where you go, I don't really care what it is that I do in my future as long as it's in your will.
Jenkins, an evangelical Christian, says that led him to make a short film for his church on the birth of Christ, and that production ultimately inspired The Chosen. Peter and Kathy Hill from Springfield, Virginia first gave the show a try in 2019 and were hooked.
One episode.
Then we watched another one.
Yes, we were blown away.
Then we watched another one.
They even had the chance to be extras during the show's filming of the Sermon on the Mount. The actor who portrays Jesus, Jonathan Rumi, is a devout Catholic. He spoke on EWTN's Life on the Rock about his preparation.
I go to Mass when we're on location. I try to find a church near our hotel, and I specifically try to make sure that I can, get confession and receive the Eucharist, so that I'm filled up with as much of the Spirit as I can.
And Rumi's prayer life is inspiring others. During Lent, he would lead the Divine Mercy Chaplet for an online audience. The Hills attend an evangelical church, but would join in.
Have mercy on us and on the whole world.
Kathy says watching The Chosen helps her better understand the humanity of Christ and his love.
It gets me emotional because he's really there. He cares about everything, every single detail of your life. He just cares about.
During show production, Jenkins consults with a Messianic Jewish rabbi, evangelical scholar, and a Catholic priest for guidance. His hope is to share Christ with a worldwide audience.
I believe that if you can see Jesus through the eyes of those who actually met him when he was here in person, you can be changed and impacted in the same way they were, and that's the goal of the show.
You can watch it for free through the Chosen mobile app. These viewers are spreading the word.
You got somebody who doesn't really know the gospel. This is the kind of person you invite. You come in and say, hey, watch this, because it's impactful.
Mark Irons, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.